Hi, my name is Phil Bagg and we're going to explore collector variables in this video. You can find more essential knowledge videos at codeit.co.uk/video. If you have introduced placeholder variables first, you want to revisit the concept, as much of the learning will be the same. If you haven't, don't worry, as we'll start from the beginning. You're looking at a semantic wave, which is great for thinking about curriculum sequencing. The idea is to take a complex idea such as a collector variable and unpack the concept until we get to the most concrete examples and simplest meanings. Starting at the red arrow, you can see us doing that on the downward curve from left to right. What does collector mean? Variables are like whiteboards. At the bottom we have pupils acting out concrete examples. Then the curve to the right is where we repack meaning to get back to the fullest meaning. Variable stories, concept in code, variables in a loop, initialization. In the rest of the video we're going to unpick this even more. A variable is a named unit of data that holds a value of a specific type, namely a number or string. A string is a value that contains anything, text, number, punctuation, etc. that is not treated as a number. For our earliest forays into variables, text or numbers is an acceptable simplification. The most useful variable analogy is that of a whiteboard. You can write data onto a whiteboard. It can be any type of data, number, text. You can remove this data by rubbing it out. We can do the same thing with our digital variables, deleting the value of the variable. We can write a new message onto a whiteboard and we can assign new data to a variable. Whiteboards are useful, but it's not a perfect analogy. If we use them, we must also explain the limitations of the analogy. We don't have to name our whiteboards, but we do have to name every variable, or the digital device won't be able to identify it as a variable. We call the data assigned to a variable the value. I have never heard of anyone talking about the value of their whiteboard, outside of computing lessons anyway. This linking of name and value is called assigning. Assigning is a great term. It works for all types of variables and it does not bring about misconceptions. When we read the name, we act on the value. Although we read angle underscore turn, we act on the 15-degree value assigned to it. Let us summarize the way a variable is like a whiteboard and the ways a variable is not like a whiteboard. We can also change the value using maths, which is a feature of a collector variable, but we're going to get onto that in the next couple of slides. Here we have an algorithm that uses a collector variable. Note how we have initialized the variable first by giving it a value before we use it. This is very important as it is impossible to change a variable using maths if you don't know what the starting value is. Reminding pupils to read the name but act on the value is important. Tracing through this with the whole class first, recording the value of my num on a whiteboard as we act it out would help most pupils to see what is happening. We can write my num on a whiteboard and assign the value as 3. Now we can bow 3 times and say 3. Next we can add 3 to our my num value, making it 6 on the whiteboard. Now we can clap 6 times. We can then continue this for the rest of the algorithm before asking pupils to act it out themselves. Testing their understanding is also helpful, as it will help us to know if we can move on or if we need some more examples. Here is another question and answer that could be asked, making the point that variables can be used in place of any number anywhere in the algorithm. Writing their own examples is a useful test to see if they understand the use of a collector variable in simple algorithmic form. Sushi Grover in her research identified that pupils who had spent time looking at a concept away from code and a story context had a deeper understanding of the concept when it was used in code later. Here a pupil has examined a simple step story in the speech bubble above. They have been asked some questions to help them identify key features of a variable, its name, what is changing, the values at different times in the story. This type of story definitely enriches pupils' understanding, which aids the creation of use of variables in programming. Transferring our variable knowledge to code is an important step. Here we can see that assigning a value to start with, initialization, is an important step in code as it was in our earlier algorithm. We can read the name and use the value, and that's just as valuable in code as it was in the algorithm earlier. We can also change the value using maths in code, just like we did in our algorithm earlier. And we can see how we can use a variable to set how many loops are going to occur in our count controlled loop. My thanks to everyone here for their research. Any errors are of course my own. Do get in touch if you have any questions. In Highest Hampshire, inspectors provide resources on every area of the curriculum that you can find on our Moodle. You're welcome to subscribe if you are in or outside of Hampshire. Thank you.